Joe Osteen was scheduled to have a public debate with Elon Musk, the billionaire who is famous for his daring ideas. The subject is God. What would motivate Elon Musk to participate in a debate about God? Everyone was wondering about it. Elon was recognized for his technological accomplishments, his ideas about space travel, and his efforts to change the future of humanity, but he was not renowned for his opinions on religion. Osteen, on the other hand, was a man who had dedicated his entire life to teaching God's word and bringing hope to millions of people every week. What would happen if these two minds came together? Everyone was immediately interested in the announcement of the debate. People were interested. Musk was not a religious person, and he typically excluded God from his scientific beliefs. However, he was willing to argue with someone whose entire life was centered around faith. The day eventually came, and the atmosphere was already filled with stress. People from all different backgrounds filled the hall to capacity. Some people were excited to see Musk bring logic and reason to the discussion, while others came to witness Osteen defend his beliefs. The stage was prepared, the audience was murmuring in excitement, and the cameras were flashing. Osteen stood on one side of the platform, holding a Bible in his hand, looking cool and composed. Musk came in from the opposite side, his expression serious but impossible to discern. Osteen broke the stillness by asking, "Is there a more important question than whether or not God exists?" The audience waited for Musk to respond, leaning in closer. This was not just a regular talk, it was the final confrontation between faith and reason. Osteen began the debate with a gentle smile. "Elon, do you believe in a higher power?" he said, a calm, almost fatherly tone. His purpose for being here was not to quarrel. He was here to lead a conversation that would let people reflect on their lives. The audience was quiet as they waited for Elon to respond. Elon sat back in his chair, his eyes lost in meditation. He said in a calm voice, "I have faith in science. I have faith in evidence. But faith, it's something else, isn't it?" His words lingered in the air. The atmosphere in the room was heavy with tension. What about the mysteries of life? Osteen insisted. Where do the things that science cannot explain, such as the feelings of hope, love, and compassion, come from? His voice was steady, but his inquiry cut through the air. People moved around in their chairs. Was Musk going to be cornered by these questions? Osteen went on to say, "We don't need to understand everything to believe in something. Elon, have you ever thought about why you are looking for answers outside of this world? Is it possible that the answers you are looking for are already here inside of you?" Elon stopped for a moment and blinked. He questioned, "But isn't faith just a way of explaining things we don't understand?" The audience was completely captivated at this point. The discussion was becoming more serious. Musk was not completely rejecting faith, but he was not fully accepting it either. What would Osteen say next? Osteen grinned gently as if he had been anticipating that question. "Faith isn't the opposite of reasoning, Elon. It's about trusting in something greater than ourselves, even when we don't have all the answers." His words were simple, yet they held a weight that made everyone in the room stop and consider. Osteen started to tell stories as the argument went on. He questioned Musk, "Have you ever met someone whose faith helped them get through difficult times?" Faith can help people get through their darkest moments. It can give them hope when they feel hopeless. Faith is what makes the impossible possible. Elon listened, his expression giving nothing away. Osteen's words had a certain quality that was impossible to ignore, even though he was not the kind of person who could be influenced by stories. And a power that could not be measured by science. Osteen's voice dropped as he added, "But Elon, what will you do when you reach the limits of human understanding? When science and technology are unable to answer the most profound questions of life, what will you rely on?" The audience was completely silent, listening intently to every word. Musk's eyes become a little bit narrower. He responded, "I think that we should push the limits of what we know. However, there are moments when I question whether there is something beyond this." The room was filled with activity. Did Elon Musk just acknowledge that he has also experienced moments of uncertainty? This came as a surprise. The strain increased once more. "That's right," Osteen said. And even the smartest people eventually reach a point where they must have faith in something greater than themselves. Faith fills the gap where reason ends. The discussion took a sudden and unexpected turn as the debate continued. Osteen, who was now more straightforward, looked directly at Musk. "Elon, do you believe that humans are capable of saving themselves?" His question was direct and everyone was aware of it. Musk, who had been calm until this point, shifted in his seat. He said with conviction, "I believe we can solve a lot of our problems by using science and innovation. We can explain things without resorting to supernatural explanations." Osteen leaned forward and questioned, "But what about the things that are beyond your control? Science is unable to explain or solve problems related to death, suffering, and love." The room was silent once more. People were on the edge of their seats. Would Musk be able to answer this question? The atmosphere was tense. For a brief moment, Musk's eyes twitched. He did not say anything. Then at last he began to speak. He said, "There are things we don't understand. However, that does not imply that we must come up with solutions." The audience could sense a change in the atmosphere as the argument was coming to an end. At first, Musk was confident, but now he appeared to be more contemplative. Osteen, on the other hand, was calm and composed, never going beyond, but constantly asking questions that made Musk and the audience think. Osteen spoke softly, saying, "Elon, you have achieved so much in this world. Have you ever thought about whether there is something more, something beyond this life?" Musk's face was thoughtful as he looked down for a moment. The audience held their breath. Musk's face softened as he considered Osteen's question. The silence in the room was deafening. Everyone leaned forward, waiting for his response. After a few moments, Elon spoke quietly, almost as if he were talking to himself. "I think about it sometimes," he admitted. "The universe is vast, and there's so much we don't know. However, I have always felt that research and discovery may help us uncover the answers." His voice was calm, but there was a touch of worry that hadn't been there before. Osteen nodded, comprehending the weight of what Musk was saying. "But what if," Osteen continued gently, "some solutions aren't meant to be reached by science? What if the most significant truths in life can only be learned through faith?" The audience was captivated once more. Osteen was probing Musk, forcing him to answer questions that he could not dismiss with reason alone. "Faith is believing without seeing," Osteen continued, his voice soft but filled with conviction. "It's trusting that there's a purpose behind everything, even when we don't fully understand. It is what provides us with hope when everything appears to be hopeless." "Elon, you have scoured the heavens for solutions, but have you ever looked inside yourself?" Musk's expression was unreadable as he looked down at the ground. For the first time in the debate, he seemed to be at a loss for words. This was no longer a battle of wits. It was something deeper and more personal. The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone in the audience knew that this was more than just a debate between a pastor and a billionaire. It was a clash of two worldviews, and in that moment, it felt like something profound was unfolding before their eyes. The debate reached a turning point when Osteen, sensing Musk's hesitation, spoke more earnestly. "Elon, you've built rockets, sent people to space, and are changing the world. However, have you ever considered what happens when this life comes to an end? What happens to us when we depart this world?" The audience was captivated by his words as they sliced through the air like a dagger. "When everything is finished, where do we go?" Osteen's gaze was fixed on Musk as he continued. "Do you think that death is the end? Or do you think that there is something else waiting for us?" Musk's face was still, his mind clearly working through the questions. He had never been one to dwell on death. His focus had always been on life, on the future, on solving problems, on making the world a better place. But now, in front of thousands of people, he was being asked to think about something he couldn't control. Musk finally said, his voice quieter than before, "I've always believed that we should focus on what we can do here and now. However, I cannot say for sure what occurs next." The crowd was taken aback by the sincerity in his voice. Osteen didn't pressure anyone. He smiled softly and said, "None of us know for sure what happens after this life, but that's where faith comes in. When we are faced with uncertainty, faith provides us serenity. It gives us hope that there's something beyond, something greater than this world." The audience was now on the edge of their seats. The tension between faith and reason was at its highest point, and everyone was excited to see how the conversation would go. "But isn't it better to live with certainty?" Musk's voice was starting to sound more like it normally did when he remarked, "Wouldn't it be better to depend on facts and evidence instead of wishing for something that we can't prove?" Osteen nodded, indicating that he understood the point Musk was trying to make. Of course, facts and proof are important," he remarked. "But there are some things in life that cannot be measured. For example, love. Is it possible to provide evidence for love using facts? Is it possible to quantify the sensation of hope or the strength of forgiveness? These are things that science can't explain, but they're real, just as real as the stars in the sky." As the debate came to an end, the room was filled with a deep sense of anticipation. The conversation had taken unexpected turns, and now everyone was wondering how it would end. Would Musk change his mind? Would Osteen offer something that even Musk, with all his logic and reason, couldn't refute? Osteen looked out into the audience, his voice steady and calm. "I believe in God because I've seen the power of faith in people's lives," he said. "I've seen that broken people find healing. I have witnessed families being brought back together. I have witnessed people find hope even when they had none." He went back to Musk. "Elon, I'm not asking you to abandon your beliefs in science or progress," Osteen continued. "I'm simply asking you to consider that there might be more to life than what we can see and touch. That's something that can't be explained by science alone." Musk sat in silence for a minute. his expression pensive. There may be something or someone greater than us who has a plan for this world and for each of us, he said. The atmosphere in the room was nearly intolerable. Everyone was anticipating Musk's ultimate response. What would he say? At last, Musk spoke. I appreciate your perspective, Joel, he said, his voice calm but sincere. And while I'm not sure I can fully agree with you, I can see the value in what you're saying. Like that, life is much more than just numbers and statistics. There could be something more than everything that is happening. I'm still looking for answers, Osteen answered with a smile that was not one of triumph, but of understanding. We're all looking for answers, Elon, he continued. That's what makes us human, but sometimes the answer is not something that we can prove. At times, it might be discovered in the beliefs we have. The crowd exploded into applause, not because one side had triumphed, but because both men had demonstrated respect, understanding, and a willingness to listen to one another. Now the discussion had taken them on a journey that did not end in victory or defeat, but rather in reflection and thought. When Musk and Osteen shook hands, it felt like the conversation was not finished. The questions they had talked about would continue to be on their minds long after the lights went off and the camera stopped rolling. Ultimately, the most surprising thing was not who had won the discussion. It was the understanding that even the most intelligent and accomplished individuals in the world are still searching for meaning and trying to make sense of the mysteries of life, just like everyone else. And perhaps, the answers are nearer than we realized. Even after the ovation had faded, the tension in the air continued to linger. Even though the debate had officially concluded, there was a sense among everyone that there was still something that needed to be said. The discussion was no longer limited to simply two men. The audience, both those who were present in the room and those who were watching from a distance, were all captivated by the deeper questions of life that had been brought up. Where do we come from? What is the reason for our presence here? What occurs when we pass away? Osteen, feeling that now was not the right moment to leave, moved closer to Musk. He spoke quietly, as if they were the only two people in the room. Elon, he began, life is more than just understanding how things work. It's about understanding why they matter. Musk gazed at Osteen with a pensive expression. But how can we be certain? He questioned, his voice suddenly softer and more contemplative. Osteen smiled softly, his look kind. How can we be sure that there is something greater than all of this? He asked. He responded, we are unable to be as certain as you are accustomed to. It's not like a math problem where there's only one right answer. But that's where faith comes in, he said. He stopped for a while to let the words sink in before continuing. The crowd was once again captivated by the statement. Faith isn't about having all the answers. No, it's about trusting that there is an answer even if we can't see it yet. Musk's expression, which is typically calm and self-assured, revealed a brief moment of weakness. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Would Musk finally concede that there were things he didn't understand? Musk took a big breath and looked around the room as if he were trying to find something, anything, that could help him understand what he was feeling. Spoke carefully and continued, I have spent my entire life searching for answers. I've started businesses, sent rockets into space, and attempted to expand the limits of what humanity is capable of. But this is different. It is different, Osteen agreed, because it is not about what we can achieve. It is about who we are and who we were created to be. He spoke with a calm cadence, his words filled with the kind of peace that comes from a deep, unshakable belief. God created each of us with a purpose, Elon, and that purpose goes beyond what we can do. It's about how we live, how we love, and how we trust in something greater than ourselves. The audience remained hushed, hanging on every word. For a little period, it seemed as though time had come to a standstill, and the only thing that was important was the discussion that was taking place on that platform. The argument, which had begun with audacious claims and lofty concepts, had transformed into something that was very personal, something that struck at the very essence of what it is to be human. Musk did not reply right away. Osteen's words were going through his mind at lightning speed as he attempted to make sense of them all. He was accustomed to figuring out how to solve difficulties. However, this was not the same. This is a question that could not be solved using logic or data. It was a matter of the heart. And that was when Musk did something that took everyone by surprise. He glanced at the crowd, then turned his gaze back to Osteen and stated, I don't have all the answers. The auditorium was utterly still. It was a surprising moment when Musk, the person who always appeared to have all the answers, acknowledged that there were things he was unable to explain. He said again, in a gentler tone, this time, I don't have all the answers. Osteen grinned, his eyes full of understanding. But maybe that's okay, he said. He said, Elon, it's more than okay. He moved a step closer to Musk and put a hand on his shoulder. This is the start of faith. He said, you don't need to know everything. None of us do. But you can be confident that there is an answer even if you can't see it yet. The audience was completely absorbed. And this was the moment they had been waiting for, the time when two guys who had very different ideas and experiences were able to find something they agreed on. At that point, it was no longer about who was right or wrong. It was about something deeper, something that went beyond the dispute. The mood changed when Musk and Osteen appeared together on that stage. The conversation had changed into something that was more significant, something that connected with all of the people who were watching. It was no longer simply a matter of demonstrating a point or winning an argument. It was about the human experience, the quest for purpose, the battle with uncertainty, and the need for something more. Elon Musk, who was famed for his intelligence and self-assuredness, appeared to be humbled by the discussion. He was not vanquished, on the contrary, he was transformed. Musk said, "I've always believed in progress," and his voice was steady but reflective. "I believe in pushing forward and finding solutions to problems, but I'm starting to see that not everything in life can be fixed with technology or science. Some things require a different kind of approach." And agreed, his voice full of warmth, and said, "That's right. Some things require faith." The room was filled with anticipation once again. The audience had been on a roller coaster of emotions, curiosity, tension, and now a deep sense of reflection. They had come expecting a fierce debate, but what they got was something far more profound, a conversation about the very nature of life itself. Osteen turned to the crowd, his voice rising slightly as he addressed them. He said, "We all search for answers," and everyone in the room could feel the weight of his words. "We all want to know why we're here, what our purpose is, and what happens when this life ends." However, there are instances when the solutions are not located in things that we can see or touch. Sometimes they can be found in what we choose to believe, he said, pausing to let the words linger in the air. Faith is not about having all the answers. It is about having faith that everything has a purpose, even when we cannot comprehend it, and that purpose is derived from God. Musk, who was standing next to him, nodded in contemplation. "I've spent my life looking at the stars, trying to comprehend the universe," he remarked, "but maybe it's time I start looking at something deeper." Osteen smiled, his eyes full of sympathy. "That's the first step, Elon," he murmured softly. "The first step towards understanding that life is more than just what we can see. Maybe it's time I start asking questions that can't be answered by science alone." It has to do with having faith in something bigger. The audience was left feeling amazed as the conversation came to a close. They had seen something truly extraordinary, a meeting of minds, a sharing of ideas, and a glimpse into the deeper questions of life. But before they could leave, Osteen asked one last question. "Elon," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "do you believe in God?" The room was silent. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. After everything that had been said, all the back and forth, the stress and the suspense, what would Musk say? Faust hesitated for a moment, his eyes thoughtful. He looked out at the audience, then back at Osteen. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I'm willing to find out." The room erupted into applause. There wasn't a victory for one side or the other. It was a victory for everyone. Musk's answer wasn't a definitive declaration, but it was a step forward. It was an admission that there was more to life than just what could be explained, and that in itself was a victory. Thank you for watching my video and taking the time to explore this profound journey between two extraordinary minds. The conversation between Joe Osteen and Elon Musk reminds us that life's biggest questions often go beyond logic and science, touching on the very essence of human existence. If this story inspired you or sparked your curiosity, don't forget to subscribe to Velvet Sovereigns for more thought-provoking and engaging stories. Stay tuned for even better and more fascinating content, because the journey of discovery and understanding never truly ends. See you in the next video.